Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Hello, hello. Sorry,
welcome,
I just
welcome.
put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Hang on, I just need to stop this video that's playing in my head. There we go. Now my audio is better. Now I can hear you. Welcome. It's a privilege and an honor to have you on the show.
Well, it's an honor to be here, actually. It's very cool. So thank you for having me.
Yes. For people who maybe don't know who you are, can you just explain who Soup Mama is before we get into the whole East Palestine, Ohio thing?
Sure, no problem. Well, my first name is actually Charisse, but everyone has come to know me as Soup Mama. And I got that nickname last year when I was in Washington with the truckers convoy here in the States. So while you guys had Canada going on in Ottawa, we were in Hagerstown, Maryland with the People's Convoy. And the story goes that we were all there, and there were a lot of people that were hungry, and I had a camp stove and a soup pot, and I hooked up with a guy named Jason who had a coffee urn and a generator and a table, and between the two of us, we started cooking for everyone at the convoy, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And then we ended up with a kitchen at the end of it, and we've been going all over the country, and I've even visited Canada. And we've cooked for patriots all over. We advocate for people to get involved and active in all kinds of different things with politics, getting signed up to vote, or just getting out and getting their voices heard. We try and cover all kinds of different events and things that are going on. So we're just raising awareness and trying to do the best good that we can. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
Yeah, and you're out there doing, a lot of very good things to help people. And right now, one of the things you're working on is bringing aid to the people in East Palestine, Ohio. And I know you've been there
That's
already,
correct.
dropping off aid. Where is everything at with regard to that?
Okay, so at this point, we have actually donated or brought donations of 3+ semis, 53-foot semis full of donated goods for East Palestine and the neighboring communities. So I've been out to Ohio twice now myself. And we are currently working on trying to get donations to fill a fourth 53-foot trailer to bring to them on the 16th of April. So we have been working very diligently with a bunch of different other groups and all over the nation that have been helping us. We've been doing public Zooms and bringing everybody in to get input from the residents in Ohio, as well as some of the other groups, and just trying to facilitate as much help as we can for the area.
Yes. So I'm just running some footage here from your YouTube channel. I think this is from about 12 days ago or so when you made your last trip there, right?
That is correct. Yeah, that was as a matter of fact, that's our Vice President of Soup Mama officials truck right there in front of us.
Can you tell me what's going on there in East Palestine, Ohio? How are the residents coping with all of this? You're obviously talking to the folks there. Just give us a sense of what the situation is.
The general situation for the people there right now is that it's generally one of fear, to be honest. A lot of confusion and a lot of misinformation. The biggest problem the biggest complaint that I've been hearing from the residents is that they're getting all of these mixed messages from the government, from independent scientists, from outside news media, obviously from doing their own research. And they're really concerned, and rightfully so. There was a lot of toxic chemicals that they dumped into a trench and then just burnt and created things like phosgene gas, which have been crimes against humanity for a long time. And that's, I'm just putting it nicely. And they basically, committed this horrific act on the citizens of the United States. And the government is basically saying, because they're not declaring an emergency disaster. So FEMA's not in there. Like I said, the EPA wasn't even testing for the right things to begin with. And people are starting to get test results back from their wells and things that they're starting to get contaminated. So now that, we're having problems with water contamination, the people are afraid to eat like their chicken eggs, their chickens, their goat's milk. They can't grow anything. They can't let their kids play in the yard or play in the creeks. Actually, today, Norfolk Southern held an Easter egg hunt in the park right next to the polluted creek. So the railroad's trying to make it so everything's normal, but when you go there, it's not. These people, I just read an article, and actually I had talked to the woman in Ohio. I had literally just talked to her the last trip we were there. She has 11 people living in her house. She's very close to ground zero, and they've been living out of a hotel, and she has pets there. So she's been going in and trying to take care of her pets and things. But she just tested, her urine just tested positive for vinyl chloride and what was it, benzene or something like that. I put the article on the Soup Mama official page on Facebook. It's absolutely unreal because these VOCs are bioaccumulative and they stay in the body and they have a shelf life of, like 500,000 years or something ridiculous. And we know that these chemicals can cause things like leukemia, and they can cause rashes, and they can cause respiratory issues. And that's really what these people are experiencing. And you're finding that, people can't get blood tests for these things because the major chains are no longer carrying these dioxin tests. And then they want to get their soil and water tested, and they're getting stonewalled all these different places. And it's a very scary and a very difficult time for a lot of these families because they don't know where to turn and they don't know what to do, and no one's helping. And that's the scariest part of all, is the government has just completely failed them on all levels. And to me, it doesn't matter if you're right, if you're left, if you're independent, whatever, it does not matter. These people literally have been let down by everyone. And they're scared and confused and, helpless and abandoned, really.
Right, because the problems they're facing there would be long-term contamination of their community, health concerns, even property values.
Correct.
Worried about their kids' health, exposure,
Right.
even their pets, right?
Correct.
Food supply, everything.
Yeah, and this is not a rich area. So these people, the average median income is something like 45,000 a year. And so that puts them like right there, kind of at that poverty level. A lot of these people are on disability, or they're elderly. They have small, like, it's families just starting out. Like, I talked to a gentleman who literally bought his house the same week that the train derailed. He had just bought his property, and he was renovating, and he's like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I'm stuck. Another lady, she has 3 years left to go on her mortgage, and her property values are going through the floor, and she's on disability. Where is she going to go? Where are her and her kids going to go? Another lady I talked to, they have 100-year-old farm. It's been in their family for 100 years, a century farm, and the land is ruined. So it's really heartbreaking when you really start to get to talk to these people, because they're just like you and me. They're no different. They're, regular everyday families. They go to work, they work really hard, they want to enjoy their kids' sports, they want to come home and put their TV show on. You know what I mean? They do everything the same way we do. And this could have happened anywhere in the United States or anywhere in the world, and this would be affecting those same communities the same way. It's such a tragedy that the reaction and the response has been so minimal for these people. I mean, there's train derailments all over. We know this. There are other accidents and other natural disasters happening all over the globe. But in most of those cases, the government works properly, or the agencies designed to go in work properly, like FEMA and the EPA and the health departments and all of those. In this situation, they have not done that. They have literally just left these people be, and they're not receiving help. And it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible when you sit and talk to them and really get to hear their stories.
Yes, because the Biden administration basically ignored this at first.
Mhm.
Then Trump did come to town. Did that, and that
Correct.
seemed to make a bit of a difference by focusing some attention on it. Just give me your
It did.
assessment of that.
Well, if nothing else, it boosted the morale of the residents. I also know that Rudy Giuliani was there as well. And Real America's Voice was just there. The last time I was there, Real America's Voice, Steve Bannon, The War Room, John Fredericks, all of them, they were there and they did an entire special, which was great to bring the awareness back to this community. Because unfortunately, what happens is we have been so desensitized to so many things in the media. So we see all these disasters, and then, you see them one minute and then they're buried in the news the next. The problem is that when this story got buried in the news, it buried the potential help for these people. And like I said, when you have a community that's basically a farming community, and they're used to growing their own food and they're used to eating their own chicken eggs and things like that, and you take that away from them, just from a financial standpoint, just from the groceries alone, their grocery bills maybe went from $150 for like, orange juice and bread and little things, now to like $500-600 because they can't even hunt. I mean, if you think about it, it takes all the wildlife out. I mean, so many fish and amphibious creatures have died from the pollution in the waterways. And then you have, like, again, the soil and stuff that's contaminated. So that means that all those plants and everything that's growing has contamination in it, and the wildlife's eating it. And they don't know how that's going to affect the wildlife either. So all of their food sources have been absolutely ruined. Their land has been ruined. The air has been ruined. The air quality there is absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. And these guys I don't know, by the grace of God, how they're doing it, because I know the last time I was there for 4 days. And by the time I came home, I was so ill. My voice was very scratchy. My nose was all stuffy. I actually ended up getting an infection in my eyelid the last time I was there, and ended up with a black and blue eye from this last trip. So it was pretty crazy, actually. I actually posted pictures of that because I've never had anything like it before.
Why is the air quality not good now? Is that because the chemical is still sort of evaporating, or you're getting some sort of gassing off of the remains that are there from the spill, and then the combustion process?
Well, okay, so there are absolutely still chemicals all over. They have trucked gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons of water out, and contaminated soil. But from what I'm understanding from the people that live there, when this all happened, yes, they tore up part of the tracks, but they put down new tracks right over top of the contaminated soil. So there's a problem there. Not only that, but I was actually, and I took footage of it and I did post it on the YouTube channel. I had one of the residents who was kind enough to take me to Leslie Run, which is one of the streams that comes from EP with the contaminated water. And we were in there, and as you're flipping rocks over and stuff, you can see the dioxins being released into the water, and it forms these bubbles. And then you can see all this stuff coming up, like all the oils and stuff coming up, and then the water gets this weird shimmer on the top of it. It's absolutely disgusting. And this is 2 months later. So what's happening is as this, as this stuff is still seeping into the ground, it's still coming through the waterways, it's still polluting the Ohio River. And this water looks absolutely benign until you start poking around in it. And after you're standing over it, as you're turning everything over and releasing that, it's almost like being hit in the face with acid. It does. It makes everything in your face burn, your lips start burning. Actually, we were at the creek for about 10-15 minutes, and I got to the point, I'm like, girls, we have to go. I can't do this anymore. It's literally like sticking your head in a steam vat of acid. It's horrible.
Wow. And the contamination is at its highest concentration right there in the community. So this is where the need is greatest. What kinds of things do the people there need? Because you're bringing aid, but what do they need?
Okay, well, so the first the first two trips or so, it was sort of, we were just bringing kind of, cleaning supplies and dry shampoos, feminine products, things like that, just to kind of replace things that might have been contaminated, things that would be useful. Obviously, like dry shampoo is a huge thing if you don't have water. So we were trying to think along those lines. However, as time goes by and we do more of these public Zooms and we have more people from Ohio and the Negley and Darlington, East Palestine, Negley, Darlington, all those areas coming in and talking about things, one of the biggest concerns right now is actually food. Because again, everything's contaminated and they cannot afford to feed themselves. So that is actually really one of the biggest things. Now, one of the other horrific things that I found out is that they have been trying to count the income from the railroad to help with people who had to move and or staying in or hotels and not in their homes right now, people who are displaced. They're trying to count that as income to take away their their food stamp benefits for the lower income families. Now, there are ways for them to fight it. So if anybody from that area is listening and watching right now, if you don't know how to fight it, please email me at soupmamaofficial@gmail.com. We will get you in touch with Miss Elvira from our board, and she can help walk you through how to do that, how to appeal that process. But again, there are some people that may have already gotten their stuff turned down or didn't know about the appeal process. And like I said, they are trying to use that income to take away those food stamps for those lower income families. So the food is definitely one of the number one priorities right now. Non-perishables obviously are the easiest to transport and they can keep well, and they're sealed in containers that shouldn't be able to be contaminated for the most part. So that is our number one focus for this next donation run. The other big things would be soil and water testing. Folks are very, very afraid to use their water and they're afraid to grow anything in their properties. And what we found out is it's about $1,000 for each soil sample to be tested, and it can cost up to $250 to test a well. And most of these people aren't necessarily on the city water. So this is what makes it really interesting, is that a lot of them aren't on like the city water itself. They're actually well water. About 80% or so of the communities are on well water. So that's where the main concern is. It's not so much the municipal water in EP as it is the people in the surrounding, just outside of town with the wells. That's where the big concern comes in for the testing. So food, the testing, and then of course water and air purifiers. There are some people who are getting them, which is great. There have been some donations for some of that stuff. I know that Luke Grimes was just down there and donated money towards air purifiers or water purifiers for businesses, I believe. So that's really, really great. But there are still a lot of homes outside of that 1 or 2 mile radius that aren't getting any help with those kinds of items either. So, you look at water and air purifiers, the air purifiers are like $500 on up for anything that's going to actually clean out the VOCs, is like the average price that we're finding. And then, of course, treating water in a home, depending on the water system, it varies in cost. And there's other challenges with that too, because not every house is a traditional home structure. Some are more of a mobile home, which creates other kinds of challenges too.
And I think the municipality is telling people that the water supply is safe, right? But
Yes,
obviously
that's
people
what
are
they're telling them.
concerned. Yeah.
Yeah. I won't drink the water there. I
Yeah.
will not. I it's it's really unfortunate because these people are wonderful people. It's such a great little town. It's gorgeous. It's quiet. There's a lot of fields, a lot of trees. There's families with kids playing all over. I mean, it's wonderful. And you see these creeks and streams and woods. And I know as a kid, I would have absolutely loved it because, you can go traipse out and play in the dirt and run around and scream and yell. And, you're outside and wonderful fresh air. But they can't do this anymore. I mean, these people are afraid to let their kids out in their front yards. And rightfully so, because if they eat a contaminated leaf, who's to say what that's going to do to their child? So it's really it's tough. It's very tough.
So tell me about this day here, because this will be repeated when you bring the next load of supplies and aid. Tell me how this all plays out when you roll in here with a truckload of
Well,
goods and supplies.
this particular supply that you're showing here, this particular drop, this was done at the Negley Fire Company. So our first two tractor trailer loads went to Britain Motors directly in East Palestine, where he has a drive-through setup. Where Corey Brittain, he has a drive-through setup for water donation, and we initially used that location, but it's right next to the active railroad tracks in EP. And the line was so long, there were people pretty much waiting, across the tracks, all down Main Street, and it made it very, very congested. So this last time we had talked to the Negley Fire Department, who was kind enough to let us do the donation drop there. And we had much more room. So as you can see, there's a large lot there. We had two lines of cars. They would come up on either side. We unloaded the tractor trailer, the goods from the tractor trailer and the vehicles and stuff right there in the center where you can see everybody sort of standing. All those volunteers all came from the area there. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful people. Lots of boots on the ground helping out to make this possible. And they helped sort everything out and put together, as the cars would go through, they'd just load up whatever they needed and would send them through. And I actually took footage of that. That line, the line of cars, I walked the entire line of cars. It was over a mile long. People sitting for hours waiting for some help just to help alleviate some of the expenses while they're paying for these extra lodgings and while they're paying for the extra groceries and all of the extra doctor visits and trying to save for soil samples and well testing. And it's absolutely amazing. But the guys on the ground, they were absolute rock stars. Like I said, a lot of amazing groups, a lot of amazing people coming together from Ohio and all over the nation to make this possible.
Wow. So in the face of adversity, this really has brought out the best in people in the community.
Yes, I have seen a lot of people working together in the town, and they are really pulling together in a way that is just absolutely phenomenal. And they are not going anywhere. They are not going to be silenced. They want their stories heard. They want help. They want people to know what's going on and what's happening to them in their town. Because if it can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. And we need to be very conscious of this, as people, because no one should be basically toxically nuked and then just left out in the middle of nowhere. This should just not be happening in the modern world. And for me, it's really tough because this happened right on the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania, and I live in Pennsylvania. And I live in a small rural community with farmland and a train track 2.5 blocks from my house. So this really hits home for me, because it's like watching my own neighbors struggle and suffer. This is Ohio has, I think Ohio is number 2 in the United States for farmland. So if you think about it, where this happened and how this was done has basically affected one of the largest areas of farmland in the United States. And it's very concerning because it's a large area that was affected, especially with that chemical burn and that plume going up in the air, that huge, huge cloud that just kind of sat there and then came back down on everything and just settled into the ground. So again, you're talking a lot of farmland, a lot of waterways. I mean, they're finding contaminants all the way in West Virginia from this. This goes directly into the Ohio River. So obviously that's going to affect a lot more waterways than just, you know what I mean, just West Virginia's area. So this should be very concerning to everyone all over, because not only is this going into the waterways and the soil, but then you have to remember, when you remember how science works, this goes back up into the atmosphere and comes back as acid rain, which is going to affect everyone and their crops everywhere all over.
Yeah. So you gave us your email address, soupmamaofficial@gmail.com. Is there a website that we should make people aware of as well?
Well, the website is www.soupmamaofficial.com. We like to keep it very simple to find us. As a matter of fact, we are on, I think, 8 or 9 different social medias as well, and it is all under Soup Mama Official. So if you see that somewhere, you can pretty much guarantee that that's us. You'll almost always see that hashtag as well as the hashtag Eat More Soup. We actually, I think I do. I have it on my shirt today. Soup Mama, Eat More Soup. So you can always find us with a hashtag too, if that's your thing. But we are looking for donations. We are looking for people to run donation locations. We're looking for volunteers. Any hands on deck would be absolutely phenomenal. We are also accepting monetary donations to go towards the purchase of purifiers and for these soil samples and anything else that may come up, like, medical needs or foods or whatever these, whatever we need to supply. But our most active social media page would be our Facebook page. That is where you'll find the most of our information, but you can get a hold of us absolutely anywhere. It just might take me an extra day or two because it's a lot of social media to manage.
A large portion of our audience is Canadian. Would it be best for them to donate monetarily, or because of the border issue, rather than try to send you stuff?
Yeah, I don't. All right. So I've only been over the border once. That was earlier this year, and Canadian customs kept me there for about 2 hours. So if goods traveling across the border, or anything like customs, yeah, I would think that the best way to help might be monetarily. However, I know that there are a lot of amazing Canadian truck drivers up there. So if you guys put together a donation and you have a semi that's willing to drive it over for us, please let me know. We will happily get them to come down with us and see what kind of good that you guys can do from there as well. Like I said, we are looking for volunteers from all over, because obviously the issues that we face here in the US, it's the same thing with Canada. When you guys are facing an issue, all of these things are interchangeable, because what happens to one is bound to happen to another. And we need to look out for each other because we're all one big giant family. And that's really the truth of it, is we are all one race. We are all the human race, and we need to look out for each other because the people in power are not looking out for us. And it's really about neighbors and communities and unity, really.
Yeah. So what happens next now? You're going to go back to East Palestine when?
We are going back on the 16th of this month. So that is our tentative date for our return. So that's actually next weekend. We do have another public Zoom scheduled for Monday evening. So anyone that would want to get any more information, join in. We actually will be having a bunch of different residents from the East Palestine area on that Zoom to speak to exactly what's going on in their towns, tell their stories, and let people know exactly what it is that they need. So if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more or finding out how they can help, or wanting to ask questions or talk to these people, we encourage you to please join us. It'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do have the Zoom link already put out on the pages, so you can find that there. I will be sending it out again and reposting it over the weekend as well. I know it's busy with the holiday and everything, so happy Easter, everybody, for those of you that celebrate it. But we still, even with the holiday, we still have to keep in mind that some of us are very fortunate and blessed every day that we don't have to think about things like our groceries or our water, and we can take those things for granted. But there are people out there who are suffering, and they can't take those things for granted. And I try to keep that in mind as we go through this season, because it really truly is a time for people to wake up and stand up and refresh and renew, and we need to really, Easter is a time of hope, and that's the truth of it. These guys need hope more than they need anything else, and they need hope and love and prayers, and they need our help. So we should keep that in mind throughout this season at any rate. And like I said, Monday night is going to be a really, really big Zoom. So I'm very excited. And I hope that we have a lot of people join in and come and find out what's going on, and volunteer to step up and help a little bit. That would be wonderful.
And we can promote that. We can, remind people of it, again, before we get to Monday. And I guess
Awesome.
it's incredibly important because it seems to me the mainstream media has just pushed this aside now. Like they reported the disaster and they've kind of now moved on. Are you getting that sense as well? Because I'm not seeing the,
Mhm.
much coverage on it at all now. Sorry, did we lose you?
Mhm.
I think maybe we're losing the audio, but yeah, I guess that Zoom meeting on Monday is just one example of the way it's incredibly important, or a way to keep this in front of people and remind people, because the media has sort of moved on from this story, from what I'm seeing. Is that
Well,
your assessment?
yeah, and that's the problem. Like I said, they reported on it and then they buried it and left these people high and dry, and
Yeah.
that's not okay. It is not okay. Like I said, at the end of the day, when you look at what was done, the train derailment was unfortunate, and we can all say, accidents happen. But the train derailment is only one part of it. The part of it that's concerning is how they handled it. And the fact that they haven't declared an emergency disaster so FEMA can come in and help these people out. And the fact that they had those trains running immediately, and the fact that they have buried this story. Again, those chemicals, when they burned, created all kinds of other really horrific chemicals. And everybody's just sweeping it under the rug like it's no big deal. But this is actually one of the things we should be screaming about from the rooftops, because again, this is poisoning our own people. And this is something that should not ever be overlooked. Someone should be held accountable for these decisions that were made, and it should not be the people of the small towns of East Palestine and Negley and Darlington. There were people from Norfolk Southern that made this decision to burn this stuff off. That person needs to be held accountable, because they knew what was going to happen. It is a scientific fact. You take this, you burn it, it makes this. So
Yes.
this was calculated, and this is not acceptable. And again, these guys are not going anywhere, and they have been just crying for as much help as possible and as much attention as possible, so this doesn't happen anywhere else to anyone else.
Yes. And I guess that's something to look ahead to, is what kind of recourse do the residents there have? And I don't know if you're involved in any of the legal aspects of this, or if you can give us any perspective on that.
So I do know that they've had a few town halls already. There's certain challenges that the townspeople are facing when it comes to this. Obviously, these are very, very small towns. So these folks, these trustees and stuff, they were never really equipped to deal with a major disaster. I mean, they're, obviously small communities, they have their regular 9 to 5 jobs. Yes, they get elected, but again, most of the time their decisions have to do with parks and recreation and roads. I mean, it's really not, nobody expects this to happen in their town. So some of it is that, these folks don't exactly know what to expect themselves. And some of it is that they don't necessarily make these decisions. They get listened to as a voice, but they don't necessarily have control over these decisions. So there are several things kind of in the works. I do know that the residents themselves have been putting together an action committee right there in Ohio, right there in that area. I've been seeing that. I've been part of a lot of their Facebook groups and stuff, watching them as they start to organize. When we were there last, like I said, Real America's Voice was there. They also talked about potentially doing a series of town halls. Now, I do need to follow up with them. I'd like to find out when they're hosting those, so that we have a little more information, because we had talked about trying to host one before they came. We had started talking about that, about how we can help the residents from a legal aspect, and get them on the right course. But then again, like I said, Real America's Voice came in and said about hosting a series of those town halls. So we're going to try and follow up with them. I did see that I believe there's 2 lawsuits now filed from the state of Pennsylvania, I believe it is, against Norfolk Southern, but nothing from Ohio yet that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. But I do remember seeing, I believe, a second lawsuit that was filed just in the last day or so, a news article about that. So things are starting to move in a direction where people are starting to figure out what they need to do to try and move forward with this a little bit. But it's such a long process. And meanwhile, Norfolk Southern's kicking the can down the road. The government's kicking the can down the road. FEMA's kicking the can down the road. And these people are still going, hey, we need help. They can't wait for the railroad. They can't wait for the government. They can't wait. Who can, I mean, realistically, if somebody goes to you, well, you need to wait 6 months till you can even eat. I mean, you'll be dead. So these folks, unfortunately, are just stuck in this really awful position, and they need the help now, and they can't wait. So that's where the people step up. That's where the people have to step up, because we need to take care of each other. Because again, this is a prime example of how dysfunctional all of our governments are at this point. And it is up to us, the people, ultimately at the end of the day, we're the ones with the say, we're the ones with the power. So we just need to learn how to kind of pull that all together so that we can start really moving this in a forward direction. Really working on getting these folks some long-term help. That's been one of our goals. That's why, again, we're raising those funds for the purification systems, because there are some people that have multiple businesses or multiple properties, and they can't just up and leave. Or, they're in a position where financially, they can't leave, because now the only thing that they own, which was their home and their property, has just been devalued. And where are they going to go? Right. So it's a really tough situation, but it is a little bit fluid. As we go, we are learning. Obviously, nobody handed me an instruction booklet for any of this, or the residents. So we are really doing our best to try and collect as much information as we can. And like I said, really listen to the people of the communities to get them the help that they really truly need. And that's really where it's at. Especially, like I said, those Zooms are so important for that reason. And that's how we know things like, okay, this time around, they absolutely need us to bring them food. Because this is, again, it's a fluid situation. So some of these needs may change over time. But again, we are anticipating a more long-term support role for these folks as this whole mess gets straightened out.
Because it is a long-term challenge. It's
Mhm.
devastating for the people there. Property values destroyed, really. And everybody knows that for the average person, it's your home that is your store of wealth. That's where you're investing all of your money over time. That's your retirement fund, essentially, right?
Yep.
or a big part of it. So if you lose the value of your home, that's like just taking the backbone out of your whatever you have for the future. It's destroying your future.
Yeah, well, a
So,
lot of
yeah,
these people planned on giving their homes to their children,
right.
and having generations of, and there's places, generations of families on a property,
Yeah.
and they have to wonder, are their children even going to be able to keep it? Is it even worth giving to them? And it is really heartbreaking. And it's one thing to talk about, oh yeah, it's just a piece of property, but again, you have to remember, some of these people were born there. They've been raised there their whole lives. They've been raising their families there. This is their entire life.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like aliens plunking you out of the sky and putting you on Saturn, and saying, to these, when you tell these people to move, they don't know what that looks like. And how do you put a value on that? How do you mark that heartbreak? How do you register that? Like, how do you really explain that to someone? Again, it's such a sad situation, and it's so hard to impart on everyone exactly how dire this is, because we tend to think of things like, oh well, here's your solution, but the solutions aren't always that easy. And sometimes we forget about that human element too, because we're all so busy watching things on a screen that we forget that human part of it. And we forget what it would be like if it happened to us. There's a statistic out there I had read not too long ago, something like 80% of Americans don't even have $500 in the bank, and or $1,000 in the bank, and then something like 90% of them don't even have like 500 in the bank, or something ridiculous. And again, it just goes to show you, we're all one major disaster away from having our homes taken away, or being homeless, or being destitute, or being
Right.
strapped in a position like these folks.
That's exactly right. People think that we live in, one of the most affluent, richest countries in the world, but for the average person, it's sometimes paycheck to paycheck. It's tough out there. It really is.
It
We're
absolutely is.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know that you're extremely busy. I'm so appreciative of you spending time here with us tonight to bring us up to date. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up or think that I might be missing?
Well, I just want to say, on a personal level, thank you again for allowing me to be here to help raise awareness for these guys. Um, I know that I speak for a lot of families from there when I tell you that this is heartbreaking, and I watch what it's doing to these people and to their homes, to their morale. Um, and I have to tell you, I have met some of the most amazing people there, some really amazing, strong willed, absolutely wonderful people. And they don't deserve this. And we really, we really need to help, and we really need to open our eyes and see what's going on around us. And I know that they thank you guys from the bottom of their heart. That last drop that you were showing at the Negley Fire Department, that was the first load of relief goods that town had gotten since this began. And there were people standing out with signs, and little kids. As a matter of fact, one of the kids, a young lady, she made this and was standing at the gate. Let me see if I can hold it so you guys can see it. And she gave this to me. These are her hand. No, wait. Oh, this way with the camera, maybe. Oh, that's her handprint there. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not very good at this backwards thing. But that's her handprint there. Amazing, amazing families. And it really meant so much to them, that we're there, and that they don't feel forgotten, and they don't want to be forgotten. They don't want to be abandoned, and they want people to know what happened. They don't want this to happen to anybody else, and they're proud people. They're not people that would be out, going, oh, well, I need you to help me with this, and I need you to help me with this, and I need to. No, these are proud people. These are people that work very hard their whole lives for the things they have. They don't want to be asking for help. They don't want to be in this position. But unfortunately, they've found themselves there. And, every little thing that you guys do to help, whether it's a monetary donation, whether it's some bottled water or some canned food, or even, just sharing their information out to other people that may potentially be able to donate, or reaching out to a company and saying, hey, can you guys help these people? Anything like that, any little bit helps. And it helps them tremendously, and it means the world to them. And like I said, guys, I hope that you can join us for that Zoom Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, because like I said, we will have a lot of the residents. They'll be more than happy to talk to you guys and speak to you about their situations and answer questions and let you know who they are. And you will see that these guys are absolutely just like everyone else, you and me, just trying to do the right thing by their families and do the right thing for each other. So, yeah, join us for the Zoom, please. And please, 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 volunteers, lots of volunteers. We need all the help we can get. And I know that we would greatly appreciate all hands on deck. So
Really appreciate it. There's one thing I have to do before we sign off with you. And when people use their superpowers for good and never evil here on the Maverick News Channel, we knight them. So
oh geez.
I hereby knight Soup Mama.
We, the Maverick family, do hereby dub thee an official Maverick Knight, freedom fighter extraordinaire. May your courage and devotion to freedom and truth become a shining example to the people of our world and the Maverick universe. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've never been knighted before. So that's pretty cool.
You
So
absolutely deserve that. You've earned that. Thank you very much for everything you're doing. We will promote the Zoom meeting on Monday. We'll let people know. We'll maybe dip into it and
awesome.
And broadcast it out a little bit maybe on Monday as well, just to make people aware and bring more attention to all of this. And again, folks, if you can donate, you can do that at soupmamaofficial.com. If you want to contact Soup Mama directly, it's at soupmamaofficial@gmail.com. If you can help out in any way, that's how you do it. Canadians, I think probably the best way is just to donate some money so you don't have to deal with the border issues, and then they can put that money to good use. But do what you can, absolutely. I guess. And yeah, this is going to be a long-term thing. So don't forget to participate in that Zoom meeting on Monday night too, if that's something that is positive for you to do as well. And we'll just bring attention to it here on the channel. So Soup Mama,
we
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you have a blessed and safe, happy Easter. God bless all of you guys. And I love you, Canada. And, because y'all are my brothers and sisters. And I can't wait to visit again. Just so you know, I am coming back up soon.
That's fantastic.
So maybe next time we'll get a chance to meet in person. I would absolutely love to.
I'd love to do that too. Thank you again so much for everything you're doing. We'll be updating this because this is going to be a long-term story, no doubt.
Absolutely. Yep. We'll keep you posted.
All right. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye for now.
And again, soupmamaofficial@gmail.com, folks. If you would like to send Soup Mama a message of any kind, but go to the website, soupmamaofficial.com, or their social media pages. They have ways for you to donate there, and you can just find out all about all the things going on, like the Zoom meeting on Monday. So all the info right over there on their website, soupmamaofficial.com. Don't go away. I'll be right back after this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, I'm back. Welcome back. Welcome back. What else do we have? Well, just on a lighter note, Leo, Mouth of the South, posted this the other day. And I'm going to embarrass him now because I'm going to run it. Whether he likes it or not, I'm sure he'll like it. Here he is.
We're making the money. We're rocking down here. I'm not telling you where we're at, but you know where I'm at. I'm at work. I don't own the rights to this music, but I did write a little bit of this music back in the day, back in 1989. You know who it is. Yeah. I'm singing with these folks. I got the best job in the world. Working all weekend, baby. And I'm on my lunch. Don't forget my son to include everyone. Take it free from sin till the sin is gone. Sleep with one eye open. Keep your pillow tight. Extra light. Take my hand. I'll be never left.
I don't know if this is news. I'm not even sure if it's reality. But it was fun. Thanks for that, Leo. You brightened my day. What else do we have tonight? China has started 3 days of combat readiness patrol exercises around Taiwan. Yeah, everything continues to escalate there, especially in the aftermath of Taiwan's president visiting the United States, meeting with government officials. Chinese state media has released a video that mentions some of the assets used in the exercises, including PLA Army rockets. In addition, also the PHL-16 truck-mounted self-propelled multiple rocket launcher, the Navy's destroyer escort, a missile boat, the Air Force's J-series fighter bombers, electronic warfare aircraft, and aerial tankers. A show of force by China, rattling their sabers as the United States also takes a position that brings us closer and closer to a possible actual kinetic conflict with China. China says this has all been quickly amassed and moved to the designated drill zones in preparation for combat deployment. The drills aim to examine, under the support of joint combat forces, the military's capabilities of gaining air and sea superiority controls. And it also takes a look at information warfare strength. The mission forces will simultaneously organize combat patrols encircling Taiwan and closing in on the island so as to impose or increase island-wide military intimidation. That, according to the mainstream media. Here's an ABC report that I want to run for you to give you their perspective on this.
3 days of military drills around Taiwan. The move comes after the island's leader just returned from a top-level meeting in the U.S. ABC's Britt Clennett is in Taiwan with more. Britt, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. Well, China is dubbing these drills United Sharp Sword in a clear retaliation for that meeting between House Speaker McCarthy and Taiwan leader Tsai Ing-wen in LA. Now, we knew China was angry, but it appears to have waited for Tsai to return home before acting. Now, a video released by China's military this morning shows the drills underway, and it lists off a range of military assets involved, including long-range rockets, fighter bombers, missile speedboats, and Navy destroyers. Now, Chinese authorities made it clear the aim is to test out its warfare strength and intimidate Taiwan. Live fire drills will also be held in Fujian, which is just across the strait from here. But what we do know is that when former House Speaker Pelosi visited Taiwan last August, Beijing launched these kind of unprecedented drills for a week and even flew missiles over the island. So far, though, Taiwanese authorities have reacted very calmly, saying they don't want to escalate tensions, but will be monitoring it all very closely. And they've already detected dozens of fighter jets crossing the very sensitive median line of the Taiwan Strait. Janae?
Wow, man. We need to, I think, recognize, or at least the United States and the Biden administration really needs to recognize that we no longer live in a geopolitical unipolar world. The United States may still have the largest military, but China is catching up, and the United States is spread thin all over the world with bases globally. Yes, they have NATO, they have other nations as well. But in this case, given the geography, the way everything is laid out there, the U.S. forces, if U.S. forces go up against China in some sort of a conflict over Taiwan, I think the U.S. is at a severe strategic military disadvantage. That's just my opinion. And politically, also the United States, they are using up their global goodwill with other countries. They've used it up a long time ago, really. And that's why you're seeing even NATO countries engaging with NATO's adversaries, China, Russia, South Africa, India. It's a new world, man. It's not like it was back in, the 80s, the 90s, after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The U.S. needs to be very careful here. And I think Biden is incredibly reckless, both in his words and his actions. He has proven to be, I think, on the foreign policy portfolio, incredibly incompetent. And they are trying to shift the blame now for the chaotic, anarchic, disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan on Trump, which is it's an absolute joke, in my opinion. But that is what they are trying to do. Here's Here's an example of the way that is being portrayed. You can tell that they're gearing up for the election already, and there's something about that withdrawal from Afghanistan that the Biden administration, the sitting government in the United States, sees as a huge liability. That's why they're trying already, I think, to shift the narrative on that withdrawal so that it looks like it's Trump's fault so that they can blame him. They had a report that came out stating that. And I would say it's not only inaccurate, it's grossly unfair. There's only one person who the buck stops with on this, and that's Joe Biden. And yet he is refusing, the administration is refusing, the media is refusing to hold him accountable, to accept responsibility.
House press room. This comes after a new report from the National Security Council blames the Trump administration for the chaotic 2021 withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. The report says the Biden administration got bad intel about community assessment and the Afghan army's willingness to fight. Military leaders were then forced to unexpectedly speed up evacuations as security quickly declined.
There were children being killed. There were people hanging off of Air Force jets that were leaving. And you're saying that you guys are proud of the way that this mission was conducted?
Proud of the fact that we got more than 124,000 people safely out of Afghanistan? You bet. Nobody's saying that everything was perfect, but there was a lot that went right. And a lot of Afghans are now living better lives in this country and other countries around the world because of the sacrifices and the work of so many American government officials. So yeah, there's a lot to be proud of, Peter.
National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby also said any equipment left behind was purposefully turned over to the Afghan army to help them in their fight.
Has anyone watched Glenn Beck? And is anyone familiar with the efforts that he made to help get people out of Afghanistan? I have a completely different view on this. The U.S. government turned their backs on a lot of people who needed help, especially Afghans who had been there assisting the United States over the past, 20 years? And they just left them hanging. Some of them exposed, names exposed at the end, leaving them wide open to arrest, detention, and death. Extermination. Unbelievable. And I know that Glenn Beck had raised funds, arranged to help to get a plane over there, and couldn't get clearance properly from the U.S. administration to make all of this happen. It was you should check out, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, go check out Glenn Beck, look it up. I just thought about it as this story was, I'm just sharing the story with you tonight. It's bad enough that our governments are rewriting a lot of our history in order to align it with their current political objectives. It's very Orwellian. But this is rewriting recent history, rewriting history as it unfolds. All, I think, to help Joe Biden in a re-election attempt. It's actually pretty disgusting. Let's check out this CBS report. And again, just note the tone, the language, and see if there are any pictures of those people hanging from the planes in this report. Here's CBS.
The new White House report is shedding more light on the chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. It lays much of the blame on the Trump administration, though the Biden administration admits there were flaws in the timing of the evacuation. Margaret Brennan breaks down what's in the report.
President Biden's decision to pull the U.S. out of Afghanistan led to the collapse of its government and military, the death of 13 Americans, and left tens of thousands of Afghans hoping to escape. Girls over 12 can no longer be educated. It is one of the darkest moments of the Biden presidency to date. Nearly 2 years after the chaotic end to America's longest war, the White House admitted it should have started evacuating earlier.
Clearly, we didn't get things right here.
But the White House took little responsibility for executing a messy exit. A 12-page summary of the classified government reports claimed President Biden repeatedly asked military leaders if they required additional support to mitigate threats and was told no. An August 26 suicide attack outside Kabul airport killed 13 American service members.
I opened my eyes to Marines dead or unconscious lying around me.
Marine Sergeant Tyler Vargas Andrews survived the attack and told Congress last month that there was confusion on the ground.
There was an inexcusable lack of accountability and negligence. The 11 Marines, 1 sailor, and 1 soldier that were murdered that day have not been answered for.
The head of Central Command, General Frank McKenzie, told CBS in September that he advised President Biden against pulling out and warned the U.S. may now be vulnerable to a future terror threat.
I think we've got certainly less than 2 or 3% of the intelligence capability that we had before we withdrew.
The White House release argues the Trump administration's deal with the Taliban lacked detailed withdrawal plans and blamed the former president's decision to cut the number of troops there, as well as the Taliban's strength with having severely constrained Biden's choices. The summary is a snapshot of 2 classified reports submitted Thursday to Congress following a subpoena threat from Republican Congressman Michael McCall, Foreign Affairs Committee chair.
We need to get answers and accountability to the American people, the veterans, and the Gold Star mothers.
You've got veterans that deserve a hell of a lot more of the truth.
Lance Corporal Jared Schmidt died in the suicide bombing. His father said the 12-page summary is an insult.
You're the president of the United States. The buck stops with you. It's your responsibility. Stop making excuses.
The long-delayed White House release happened on the cusp of a holiday weekend, and there are no plans to make public the classified details given to Congress. Missing from this public summary is any mention of dissent from within the military, and there is no mention of a classified internal State Department cable from July urging that the evacuation be sped up.
So, some truth in there. It's going to be very difficult for Biden to whitewash this, to sanitize it. Too many people know what really happened over there. That report, though, absolutely an attempt by, you can call it the deep state if you want, but certainly the bureaucrats, the puppets of the Biden administration, the powers that be, the deep state, to reframe the narrative on this. It's the first step to reshaping, rejigging what's in people's heads and the way that they see this. It was all Trump's fault. It's all it takes. Plant seeds of doubt and then let it roll out. And then you'll see, I think, the mainstream media over the next year, 2, heading into the next presidential election, shift. They're gonna dilute this story and just make it more, well, gee, I don't know, it might have been Trump's fault. Because they know Trump can use this. In fact, any of Biden's opponents can use this as real ammunition to come after Biden It's one of his biggest mistakes, his biggest failures. And as I say, I think it's absolutely disgusting. Not everybody's in Biden's camp, even the people that, even other Democrats. There is some criticism out there that may shift again a little bit over time, maybe a lot. But right now, Democrat Representative Seth Moulton says not entirely fair to blame Trump for Afghanistan disaster. This from the Conservative Brief. It says here, after a report in which the administration of President Joe Biden largely blamed his predecessor, former President Donald Trump, for the Afghanistan withdrawal disaster, one Democrat has raised his voice to take Biden to task. Massachusetts Democrat Seth Moulton appeared on the NBC news show MTP Daily, where he said it was not true that the Biden administration did not have choices because of decisions made by the Trump administration. That originally coming from Breitbart. And here's the quote from Moulton. It's not wrong that Trump did a lot of bad things that sent our Afghanistan policy, and he says, but there are a lot of bad things Trump did that the Biden administration wasted no time on doing. So I'm not sure it's entirely fair to say that our hands were prematurely tied. Were they tied? Yes. But could we have undone them? I think we could have. I saw the New York Times headline that just said that one of the conclusions is that we should have started the evacuation earlier. That's something I was asking the administration to do for months, both behind the scenes and in public. I hope we learn some lessons from that mistake. And John Kirby, National Security Council spokesman, as you saw in those reports, running defense for Biden, for the administration. And here's Jesse Waters.
You guys are proud of the way that this mission was conducted?
Doesn't mean
of that?
Proud of the fact that we got more than 124,000 people safely out of Afghanistan? You bet. Nobody's saying that everything was perfect, but there was a lot that went right. And a lot of Afghans are now living better lives in this country and other countries around the world because of the sacrifices and the work of so many American government officials. So yeah, there's a lot to be proud of. For all this talk of chaos, I just didn't see it.
Permission to make an analogy. This is like coming back from a semester in college and handing your parents a report card with all D's and saying, Mom, Dad, don't worry. I have done a self-assessment and I am very proud of how I did this semester. I know I told you that I was going to bring home all A's, but I was misled by my TAs. It was faulty intelligence. Now I know I inherited some circumstances which I could not control, the American university system, the teachers, my trapper keeper. But this is accountability, because I did find out one thing I need to do better. I actually need to study before the tests, not during the tests. And then saying, I know I'm giving this to you before you're going to the airport. Take a look at it. Maybe we'll talk. Maybe we won't. And I need to borrow the keys to the car. This is what they did here. You cannot do a self-assessment and just not ask anybody else. Biden mentions Trump more than he mentions ISIS in the report. The worst part is the last line. He says, after 20 years, $2 trillion, standing up an Afghan army of 300,000 soldiers, the speed and ease with which the Taliban took control of Afghanistan suggests that there was no scenario except a permanent, significantly expanded U.S. military presence that would have changed the trajectory. That's like saying they did everything right and there was no other way this could have been after 20 years. And that's bull.
100%. Complete bull. The buck stops with Biden. He was the commander in chief. If conditions weren't right to withdraw, If he needed more time, if he needed more resources, whatever he should have done, he should have done. If it wasn't right to withdraw at that time, then he should have waited and set up the conditions that were right in order for him to do it properly. But what happened was an absolute disaster, resulting in deaths. 13 American service people killed. I don't know if it could have gotten much worse. Maybe a bit. The U.S. forces left there at the end might have been overwhelmed by Taliban forces. Just the fact that they left all those weapons behind, all those supplies, everything that fell into the Taliban hands, ISIS, terrorists, who the hell knows where it's all going to end up. Just leave it. Makes no sense to me. None. It's almost like it was intentional. I'll chalk it up to incompetence, I guess, but I find it hard to believe. And you can see that not only is that report a first step toward rewriting recent history as we head into that next election, social media is on side with it too. When I was doing a search for that footage of the people running alongside that aircraft that was leaving and hanging from the aircraft, which I've seen before, they're pushing it down. They're suppressing that video. Don't believe me? Just check this out. Even when you find it, they give you that now. The following content has been identified by YouTube community as inappropriate or offensive to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. So now they've got that on it. And I understand that it can be disturbing to watch it, but it's hard to find it now. And they're putting that up in front of it as well to make it very difficult for people to find it and watch it, because it's embarrassing for the Biden administration or regime. It absolutely is. Here's what it looks like. And yes, it is disturbing. And you see a person falling from that aircraft. We'll just stop it there. Is that Trump's fault? That's incompetence. Absolute incompetence. Sorry. The U.S. was there for, and allies for over 20 years. All of that because of 9/11. For what? For what? What has been achieved? What has changed? And it ends like that. And there's so much more associated with that disaster. Like I said, there were a lot of people that needed to get out of there that the U.S. turned their backs on. At least the Biden regime did. People that had been helping the U.S. forces there, that they could not get out. Even just getting Americans out of there. They had trouble. And then you had to have somebody like Len Beck step up, raise funds, try to get a plane in there. Couldn't even get proper clearance from the U.S. government. The U.S. government wasn't helping. If you go and look, check out what happened with him, they were standing in their way. No, that's not Trump. That's something much darker. Just things that defy logic, that make no sense these days. I wish I could understand it. Aside from incompetence, it just takes you, if it isn't just incompetence, it goes to a very, very, very dark place very quickly. If it isn't that, then it's something way worse. You can't just deflect. It was his fault. No, sorry. Not buying that for 1 second. Options? You're in charge. You wanted the job, man. You said you had the answers. You said you could handle it. And that's what we got? Give me a break. What a joke.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Less than half of Canadians are satisfied with healthcare. A new poll from Ipsos shows that less than half of Canadians are pleased with their provincial healthcare system. Most believe private entities can provide faster services, which means privatization. Yeah. More than half of Canadians are actually calling now for more privatization. Can you believe that? In a country where socialized healthcare has been very much a sacred cow, something you don't criticize, you're not allowed to. At least not in the media, or you pay a price if you're in the mainstream media. I know that firsthand. I have a whole story about that I'll share with you another time. But now, yeah, where Canadians generally, have been committed to socialized healthcare, saying, I want my free healthcare. I want my social healthcare. I want it. I need it. But it's a highly inefficient system. In this new report, it says the growing unhappiness with Canada's healthcare system became apparent over the pandemic, when hospitals saw an increase in healthcare professional burnout and mass exodus across the country. Well, yeah, fired I don't know how many because they wouldn't take the Kool-Aid. The need for efficient healthcare has plagued Canada for the past few years, with many Canadians saying wait times for emergency room visits and finding a family doctor are too long. Of course, we've talked about it here many, many times, right here on this program. It's an ongoing, serious issue. We've had people call in to talk about it. We've had guests on here talking about it. And I know people don't want to hear it. A lot of people don't want to hear it, especially Americans who are committed to the idea of bringing more socialized healthcare or a completely socialized healthcare system to the U.S. And they point to Canada and say, you see, the Canadians do it. Careful what you ask for. We had my mom on here just because it was a way to give you an example of what she had to go through waiting literally years for knee transplant surgery, right? Knee replacement surgery, rather. Years. She's been having trouble with her arm, severe pain, which we talked about a little bit with her on this show. And she had to wait. She's been dealing with that now for over a year and a half. Finally, just a short time ago, cortisone injections, which have not helped her. Just even getting in to see a doctor, it takes like 6 months to a year to see a specialist for just about anything, sometimes longer. The funding is running out. The government's kind of running out of money, or at least they say they are. They seem to have plenty of money to send to Ukraine for weapons. But when it comes to taking care of people, you know, they've made a promise to the Canadian people. We will provide socialized health care. There's only one system available. You must partake in it. We will not have a two-tier healthcare system. Everyone gets in line and waits the same amount of time. Everyone's supposed to be treated equally. It doesn't really work that way, though. The study conducted for the Montreal Economic Institute by the survey agency shows 48% of Canadians are not pleased with the country's healthcare system. It's pretty clear that dissatisfaction is on the rise, and no wonder. I go back to even the 1980s, the 1990s, when I was working in mainstream media, and I was doing stories exposing exactly that. Dissatisfaction with the system, problems with the system, long wait times in many of the reports that I was doing back then for heart surgeries. People were dying on waiting lists. When the government gives something away for free, people line up, and some of them actually sort of abuse the system, you know? Everybody just gets in line for it. And they ended up, you know, you end up with people running to the emergency room with the sniffles and engaging in all kinds of other wasteful things. And when there's only the one system and it's run by the government, the hospitals, the entire healthcare system, it breeds inefficiency and bureaucracy, cost overruns. It's the way government operates. As a result, you know, they remove the supply and demand price dynamic. They have no way to control the demand when they give it away for free. If you give something away for free, demand spikes. And people will just go and consume whatever product or service it is to the maximum amount that they're satiated with. Like there's no hesitation, right, to run off to get some sort of healthcare service. If it's absolutely free, there's no need to worry about pricing. So of course, demand increases. And I'm not saying people should be denied healthcare, not at all. I'm just giving you the reality of what happens when you give something away for free. So the only thing the government can then do to regulate or bring equilibrium back to the supply and demand dynamic is to limit supply. If you have no control over pricing because you basically make it free, then the way to bring things back into equilibrium is simply to limit supply, ration healthcare. And that's what they do. That's the reality. They don't want to tell you that. They don't want to make that apparent to you. But that's what they do. They cap the number of surgeries a hospital can do. They cap doctors' wages. You can only make this much money. And they ration care. How do they ration care? By capping the number of surgeries. They tell doctors you can only see a patient for one thing at a time. And it's true. If you go to a doctor and you want to talk to the doctor about two things, like you've got a sore knee and a sore elbow, he'll only see you for the sore knee. Then you have to make another appointment and go back for the other thing. But that could be weeks, even if it's a family doctor. Or if it's a walk-in clinic, you'll have to come back the next day or go back and get back in line and then come back in. And all of those appointments are 15 minutes in duration. That's really the way that it's all timed out for these docs. When you go for a visit, they get paid for a 15-minute appointment. So they get 4 per hour. And they want to pump you through. They want to get you through. That's how much time you get. 15 minutes, next. 15 minutes, next. It's not very personal anymore. It's an assembly line. And they do ration the care. They've been doing it for decades. People just aren't aware. They think that, most people think that they'll just, if you have a problem, they'll just figure out a way to get you in. People think that the system, I don't know, overwhelmed somehow with demand with people. Of course it is. But that's because they will only allow the hospitals to do so many, say, heart surgeries in a month. When you're producing minivans or cars, if demand for the product goes up and you're running 2 shifts and suddenly the public wants more of your product, what do? You add another shift, which is something that they did a long time ago down at the Windsor minivan plant. It was sort of unprecedented, the way that they went and were able to add a 3rd shift to keep production going at the Chrysler minivan plant. But they did that because the product was so popular at the time. That's a reaction to the market. That's the way things were working more back then. But when it comes to healthcare, there's huge demand, but the government doesn't respond to the demand by saying, gee, we better ramp up supply. We better add more shifts, get more doctors, provide more service because the demand is there. No, what they say is, no, you can only do this many. Everybody else just has to wait. And you can prioritize docs in the way that you see fit. But by doing that, you know what they're really doing? They're deciding who lives and who dies in many cases. They don't put it that bluntly when they talk to you about it, but that is really what's going on. It has been for a long time. So no wonder we're now seeing from this poll, the Canadians are losing confidence in their healthcare system. They're certainly not satisfied with the service. Many people still don't have family doctors in many, many communities. I don't have a family doctor. I've never had one. Not in this town. Not where I live right now. There are not enough to go around. I can tell you that healthcare on the family doctor front is also rationed based not on just straight up need, but on social demographics. There's a hierarchy that's actually in place that people are not aware of. Someone like me, the reality is I come last. It's just something I'm aware of. Just have to deal with it. So I go to walk-in clinics. That's really what I have to do. And for me, it's okay. It's not like I can't get to see a doctor. I can. I just don't have a family doctor. That means there's nobody that familiar with my medical history. And it's just not right. Canada continues to go through major challenges with its healthcare. And we just saw the federal government, Justin Trudeau, meeting with premiers, coming up with a national healthcare strategy, but using that funding, honestly, as political leverage in order to get the kinds of political things that he wants injected into the system. And if you think that the socialized healthcare system benefits you and you're worried about the government tracking you, but you still want your free healthcare and you don't want privatization, you just remember what happened over the past 3 years and what's even going on today with the pandemic. Remember, you don't get care unless you get the thing. They hold that over your head. You need a transplant, you got to get the thing, or no transplant for you. Oh, and there's no other place to go because there's only one source for healthcare. You're not allowed to set up a private clinic or go to someone and buy your heart transplant in Canada, in this country. They prohibit that kind of activity. Only in limited in limited ways is private healthcare allowed. In Ontario, the provincial government has recognized that they have serious problems, so they are now allowing the privatization of some services because they see that they need to do something. I welcome it. And it's been my position for a long time. And again, this is my position that a hybrid system is really what is needed and can benefit all. And if you have more privatization and you allow some people who do have the money to purchase healthcare at a market rate, then the profits from that can then be taxed and inserted back into the system, reinvested into the system to make the system more viable and provide care, funding for care for others who do not have the money. Is it two-tier healthcare? Maybe, but I don't care because I think that overall a system like that is beneficial across the board for everyone. Everyone ends up being better off if you just are willing to flex a little bit on your ideology. Because the problem we have now is that we already have a two-tier healthcare system that the government doesn't acknowledge. If you have money and you need a heart transplant or some other operation that you can't get access to in a timely fashion, if you have the money, you just leave the country. You go to the United States and you can buy it down there. And then all that money leaves the country. It leaves the system. So the wealthy just fly to other countries to get what they need if it's not available for free in a timely fashion here. And they take all that money out of the country, out of the system. Why not provide it right here and let them pay? And then take that and reinvest it into the system here to help those who need assistance, to make the system more viable. Now, that's maybe a little bit simplistic. These are complex issues. But this commitment to universality in the Canadian healthcare system, I think, is an Achilles heel to the entire system. It's too rigid. And now we're seeing, and without surprise, I would say, the Canadians are losing confidence in their healthcare system. And I think that this is really unprecedented in terms of the level of dissatisfaction. And I think it's just going to get worse. Because the government has had us all living beyond our means because of their false promises. After a while, they start running out of cash, running out of money. And healthcare is one of the most expensive social service programs that the government runs. It's so bad that when my dad was in the hospital a while back, I went to see him. You know, the beds in the hallways with patients. This was before the pandemic. But the beds, people in just being left in hallways because they didn't have the space because they had floors in the hospital shut down and not enough staff. So on the other levels, they have people just out in the halls, not in rooms. It's just ridiculous. I won't even get into my personal experiences tonight, but my goodness, something obviously has to be done. Canadians deserve better. And the way to get to better is through truth. Our politicians need to start being honest, and our bureaucrats, the administrators of these facilities, and our doctors, they need to be honest with the people. Tell them the cold, hard truth, even if it's not what people want to hear. We need to hear it, man. We need to hear it. And Americans, all our U.S. friends, again, be very, 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 very careful what you ask for. You might just get it.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, phone time. I'll set up the phones. Here's the number to call.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a maverick. Join us.
Okay, I'm back and we are ready to roll with the phones. Call-in show. You can join the conversation. Yes, you can. Let me put up the banner with the number to phone tonight. Join the conversation. Exercise your right to free speech right here at 1-833-975-3733. 1-833-975-FREE. And we have our first caller on the line. Oh, no, we lost that caller. We've got another one coming in here right now. Here we go. Who do we have on the line tonight? Is it Bob?
Yes, Bob here. Yeah.
Welcome. How are you tonight, sir?
Oh, hi. Fine. Great. Yeah.
Go ahead.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, right on. Yeah, I had a whole pile of stuff. I heard your whole show right from the beginning, and you started out, I think, with East Palestine. Yeah, that was good, knowledgeable info there that we all know about pretty much. And I was kind of thinking while I was listening to that story that we have a lot of some of our own little disasters in this country too. One that came to mind is the polluted water system in one of the NWT communities, and it's been going on for months and doesn't seem to get a lot of attention.
Yeah, I don't know about that. What are you referring to?
It's a community in the NWT. Honestly, I can't even remember the name of which community it is, but they had a burst fuel pipe or something. Anyway, their water supply was, or still is, as far as I know, contaminated with fuel getting in there. But anyway, that just came to my mind, and you know that's as drastic as East Palestine. Really, people have been putting up with this for months. But and then anyway, what else were we talking about there? While I was listening to you.
Now there was the the Biden disaster in Afghanistan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know about. We throw a name on something, Biden will say a Trump disaster. These two guys' names, that are credited or blamed for everything is kind of leaving the ones off the hook that are really responsible. Those jerks behind the scenes kind of people.
Yeah, I understand.
There's plenty of them. Yeah, and they're the ones calling the shots. These two guys are just, yeah, well, you know what I mean. They're
Absolutely. When I refer to like Biden or Trump, it isn't just one guy. It's their whole organization, the administration, and you're quite right. The people behind the scenes that we don't even really see pulling the strings, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bureaucrats, they have the power. Not the elected officials. They stand up in front of a camera. They look like they have all the power, but it's the bureaucrats pulling the strings.
Yep.
And the politicians really, basically, I think, only know what the bureaucrats tell them.
Yeah.
And whether they give them a lot of info or, information's power, and they don't give it all out. It's the bureaucrats that are controlling the world, and that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Not our country, states, everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah, and what was I? Oh, that's China, Taiwan. I don't know if anything's really super escalating there. Like, we're just paying more attention to it. These governments all flex a bit when they don't get their little way. They do their little tempered tantrum. Look at all my boats. Look at all my planes. That's just what they do. We're not doing enough of that, apparently. Well, Biden's a gift to the world, really. I mean, if there's goodwill to give, the Americans are just letting it fly with a guy like that, as the rest of the world sees that. Oh well, you guys all senile and forget what day it was. Like, that's kind of what they're putting up there, and that's what the world thinks. But it's not that way. Trust me, there are a few smart people, I'm sure, behind the scenes. They don't care what Biden looks like. They want to look like that right now. The world's not that dumb. It's just not. There's reasons for 99% of this stuff. If you just sit down and hear what's going on behind the curtain there. But anyway, that's my thought on that. And it reminded me when you were talking about that. I was in Israel in 1977. I did my first little Europe trip. And one of my friends had to go up to Galata. That's a kibbutz we stayed at. We were actually in Eilat, which was part of Egypt, but he had to go up there to check his mail. He was waiting for his mom and dad to send him some money. And he was camped out in a field, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. All these all these tanks were blowing off their missiles towards Lebanon. And anyway, he picked up his mail. He came back to Eilat. He said, "Bob, man, you should have seen the war going on." It was just a couple tanks, right? Yeah, Lebanon attacked Israel. And I said, Lebanon? I told him Lebanon attacked Israel, and he said, no, Israel attacked Lebanon. And I phoned my mom and I said, "Do you hear anything about this?" And she said, "Yeah, Israel attacked Lebanon. Lebanon attacked Israel." And I said, "No, Israel attacked Lebanon." I have an eyewitness, my friend. I won't even say his name. And it's just what the media reports, or not the media, it was the political propaganda stuff put out there right away.
Yep.
That Lebanon attacked Israel. No, they didn't. They were asleep. These guys did it 3 a.m. The Israelis attacked them. Like, we're told what the politicians want us to brainwash on, or whatever they're doing. What do you think? You must have ran across that. You were a reporter for years. You must have seen this all the time.
Yes. Yeah. They try to control the narrative. They, Noam Chomsky calls it manufactured consent. So they spin up a narrative, a story, they took the babies out of the incubators. And then the next thing you know, people are all upset, and we are off to war in Iraq.
Yeah.
So, that's what goes on, man. People need to understand that. That's exactly the way it goes down. And not all of these people working as journalists are actually journalists. Not all of these mainstream media outlets are actual media outlets. They're doing the bidding of the CIA. And I'll put this to you as well. Not all of the independent journalists out there are actually journalists. They're doing the bidding of people on the other side, or maybe even doing the bidding of the government too. A lot of this stuff, it's hard to know where it's coming from or why things are being said. And it has become, it has never been more difficult to determine what truth is than it is today. The internet has been a blessing and a curse at the same time, because you have access to so much information, but it's hard to know what the good information is and what the bad information is. Without if you haven't been properly educated, if you don't have much world experience, if you don't have a frame of reference to begin from that is, grounded in a very solid way, it's very easy to end up being led astray, down rabbit holes, having your mind twisted, and being convinced of something that is completely not true. And you could end up supporting something that you don't even agree with.
Yeah. Glad to hear you say that, because you've been around reporting news, like real news, and you see all the cloudy, muddy water that they try to throw in there to pick one side or the other and all that. More people need to realize that they pick a side where we normally don't want to pick a side. We just want to get along and just want to agree with whatever somebody's thinking. We might agree with one side and the other side on something else, but they're not. I don't know. They're making us kind of pick a side, and it's just politics to me. It's probably been 5,000 years of this, brainwash your peasants and whatever. It's not defending free speech, really. It's like, for us to say this, I think I asked if they could kick my door down when I phoned in once. But it's really defending your opinion. Boy, you can get hung for an opinion. Never mind free speech. That's where that's going.
I'm constantly questioning everything. This is not an exaggeration. I went to bed last night dissecting political ideology and history as it relates to, honestly, the freedom movement last night. I dreamt about it. I woke up thinking about it. I watched more material about it. And even that is taking me in all kinds of crazy directions, where I'm coming to new revelations about some of the ideology that some of the players within the freedom movement harbor. And, and it's again exactly because of this. I'm always questioning the information that I'm absorbing, and that takes me back. As a result of all of that, I was actually listening to lectures on the Bible today that all relate back to it. It's crazy stuff, man. It just takes you in so many different directions to get proper perspective on why you think people are telling you certain things, and as it all relates to political ideology. I probably sound like I'm losing my mind right now. To some degree,
No,
I am, because I'm
actually,
still trying to sort stuff out, right? But
well, yeah, I get that part. Yeah.
but it's important, I think, that you do that if you're able to truly understand where things are coming from. Otherwise, you just get this surface level understanding of it, and that's not adequate anymore.
No, it
Anyway,
isn't. And that's what most people accept, is just that surface level amount, and they run with that. And yeah, they're not digging deep, not even scratching the surface, really.
yes, yeah.
That's your average person. They're not interested in talking politics. They want to have some fun Saturday night or whatever. They're that's majority, I would say. But anyway, that aside. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. We can move on. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of say, I made a note on that one, this one here. The government, I wrote this down, doesn't give you and me anything for free. I think you brought that up, which, you know what I'm going to say, right? Nothing's for free, right?
That's right.
I mean, you look at your paycheck, see the deductions are on and on and on. So we're paying for it, and we're not just paying. You're not just paying for you on your health benefit there with the deductions off your check. You're paying for probably 10 or 15 other people.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's going to the sniffles, like hypochondriacs or whatever it is.
It goes on all the time. Yeah.
We're paying for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then our government has a pile of dough. Instead of just making that even better, our healthcare system, which we're damn fortunate to have, they can throw a few bucks at some foreign war. And I say some foreign war because there's always some foreign war somewhere.
Right.
Just because these are stars on the movie today, Russia, and introducing Ukraine. Oh boy, that's World War III happening. Well, you know what? This stuff's been going on forever. China can flex its muscles over Taiwan. The Americans can do their military exercises with South Korea and everybody. Like, it's all a show. Now, sure enough, we probably have a stupid idiot that could start a stupid war, like a real one. But this stuff's all show. That's how they diplomatic talk for, hey, look, I'm here. Look at all my boats, It's just childish almost, but that's how the world game is played. There's no getting around it. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can go to bed at night and wake up in the morning, because there always is, a lunatic out there that take it that step we don't want it to go in. And the other thing I was thinking about was, did you have anything to say about that? Don't you think that's a little
Yeah,
bit,
I think you're on the money there. I think people also need to realize that when government gives you something, you pay for it with your freedom, because they take away a little bit more and more of your choice. Healthcare is a perfect example of that, right? So in Canada, we're at a point now where the government is saying, okay, Canadian, you wanted free healthcare. Here it is. It's not free, but we'll give you this healthcare system, but there's only one. And now you have to do exactly what we say, or you don't get your healthcare. So you got to get the thing in the arm, or you don't get a heart transplant. I mean, it comes down to that, and you don't have a choice. You have to get the thing in your arm, or you don't have a job.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's
Yeah.
that's because the government, because we've given so much control to the government. We've outsourced so much of our own personal responsibility. We've outsourced, you know, all of this to government. And we've said, hey, you take care of us, government. And the government is then in turn saying, okay, we'll take care of you, but you got to do this and you got to do that. And if you don't do this, you don't get that. And you want to participate in society, you got to fall into line, or else no doctor for you.
Yeah. Eroding our freedom is just a little diversion to taking away our opinions, because that's what they're going after now.
Yeah.
Our opinions that's our freedom of speech, our opinions.
Imagine if we had, if we had some, at least some private alternative that was free of government control for private health care. Then when the government says you got to get the thing in the arm or else, you could just say, no, I don't think so. I'm just going to go see Joe the doctor, Joe the country doctor over here, and he'll take care of me. And then the government would, oh, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
But you can't do that.
Well,
Not
it's
allowed.
all about control, really. Yeah. But the control's gone to new levels, hasn't it? I mean, it's like almost like, forget about socialism. It's leaning more towards communism. It's like our way or you're behind bars kind of thing. Anyway, the government works for us.
Yeah, I mean, these labels that we apply, I think they're antiquated largely, right? It comes down to authoritarianism. Just it's about levels of government control. You can call it whatever you want, but this is where we're at. Government's controlling us because it's our own damn fault. We kept demanding it. We want it for free. We want this. We want that. We want this. And the government responded and they said, well, okay, here you go. But then this is the way it is now.
It is our fault. We sit back and we expect now the government to do all this and that. Now they're kind of just playing with us in a big way. And, you know, the whole concept of the government works for us. They're our boss is out the window like a long time ago. We bow down and listen to them. Hey, wait a minute. I'm paying you. Like, what happened? Who's the boss here? And as soon as you talk like that with a big pile of voices behind you, like, well, for example, Trump, that's a whole party and everything. But the minute you talk back to the power establishment, they're going to put you under their thumb.
Yeah.
Right now, a little peon, little peasant like me, they don't care. He can rattle on. Leave him alone. Show the people that the peasants have a say. They can say what they want. Doesn't affect them, right?
Yep.
As soon as you get into a position where you can give them a shove, oh man, they want to get rid of you. Look out, man. This guy's just a big blabbermouth. Two other people agree with him. Let's get rid of him. It's kind of how it is. A little way of looking at it. It's just, socialism, I guess, is in style or something.
It is because, you know, that's how they stay in power too. They buy your vote with your own money.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
That was
and it's especially, which makes which makes socialism incredibly appealing to people who choose not to work. Because then they just don't contribute, but then they get the goodies.
All the benefits, they get everything that we get, and we do the work. You know what? I don't want to say I don't blame them, but on the other hand, get off your ass and go to work, man. I mean, fuck. Excuse me. I never swear here, but I mean, I get mad when I see people really taking advantage of the system, and they're the first ones with the sniffle at the health center too. Can you give me an aspirin for this? Go home, you idiot. There's some people here that really need some attention. You know, it's just this whole system is just putting us all in that basket going, you know where. I can't say hell, but I can say the F-bomb. I don't know.
Yeah, not that I would ever, you know, say that people who really need help, who can't help themselves, people who really do need a hand up, I'm all for helping them. But the way, the way the system is set up, there's just too much abuse, too much corruption, too much waste, too much government control. It's just gone too far. And as a result, honestly, the people who often need the help the most can't even get it because they don't have the resources, or they're distributed too thinly now. I don't know. The system doesn't work.
Floodgates are open. You can go in there with a hangnail, and they'll have a surgeon take it off for you. Like, and it's just gone way, way, way too far. Whoever went to the hospital like almost in their life, unless you went there to see somebody that's not going to be around tomorrow? Now it's every day. Everybody, I need to see a doctor. What's wrong with you? I sneezed yesterday or something. Like, because it's just gone to the extreme other end of things. It's like a spoiled kid. You give them too much of anything. They don't appreciate it after a while. And then you get this. I wish our parents, or I wish my dad was alive, my grandfather, and then they'd tell you what it was like when we didn't have all this great stuff, man. We're a bunch of whimpering idiots lost out there somewhere. I don't know. Well, you see it and I see it, but there's a lot of people that really need that help, and that's what I figure my tax money should be going to. And I don't know. But, I don't know.
And it's just all out of whack. It really is. And then when you can't get a family doctor, some people, they sometimes have no choice. They have to go to the emergency room because they can't get to a family doctor because they don't have a family doctor, which puts additional strain on the emergency departments, right? So, I mean, the whole system is just dysfunctional.
In the north, you can sit in the emergency room for maybe 6, 7, 8 hours. That's the emergency room.
That happens here in my town. It happens here all the time.
Up here in the north.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's too bad you can't filter out the ones that are there for that little sniffle, and then the ones that's having a heart attack. You know, it's just. I sympathize with the medical community out there, man. They're doing everything they can do, but we need more doctors. We need to open up our borders and get people here. We're a small little population sitting on a great big pile of land, and we don't have anybody to, like, we're running out of everything. I think there was a shortage of 80,000 truck drivers last year in Canada. 80,000 truck drivers. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? Never mind the medical community. We need a gazillion of them.
Yeah,
but
well, not just that. It's really like, it's just, here's a dirty little secret. Sometimes the doctors that we bring to Canada come from countries and communities where they're really needed. So we're raiding other countries to bring their doctors here, leaving those communities without the doctors that they need. And then
because we have the to entice them, and now their own people are suffering because of that. Yeah, that's pretty sad too. Like, I didn't.
That's a reality,
That's reality. Yeah. Wow.
And not just doctors, nurses, other healthcare professionals. It's true.
Yeah, because I guess they want to get out of that political environment they're in, maybe, because I'm sure they'd be well compensated staying wherever they are as a doctor or a nurse.
For whatever reasons they come here, right? So.
Yeah, probably because they just want to get up in the morning and not hear cannons going off.
Well, we actively recruit them, right? We have recruitment programs in place in communities all across the country. And that's the other stupid thing that goes on. You have this government-run socialized healthcare system with a limited number of doctors in the system to begin with, a limited number of doctors being produced from the education system, being trained. And then they give money to municipalities for recruitment funds, right? Where they basically set up doctor recruitment programs at taxpayers' expense. And then you have all these communities competing against each other to steal each other's doctors.
Jeez.
It's stupid. And then there are certain rules. They can only offer certain incentives. But I know that, one community will offer free golf club memberships if you come and move to our town. That kind of stuff's going on in order to get doctors to move from one city to another. And then,
Who's got the biggest bribe? Yeah.
it's like, that's the way the Canadian healthcare system, they have to, but there's a limited number of doctors. What are these communities supposed to do? Now you've got these committees, and then they have to justify their existence, and they've got this government money, and they make up commercials and videos, and they actively recruit, and they come up with whatever incentives they can come up with in order to get these doctors to move. So it's this constant push and pull and tug of war between it's competition. That's what the competition amounts. That's how competition is injected into the system. That's not healthy competition. That's destructive, counterproductive.
It is, and the competition for medical staff in the north. I'm talking about the Northwest Territories. Obviously, I guess I told you where I'm from. I'm up here, but they do the incentive thing for medical staff, and they entice them and they bribe them and they get them up here, and then when they get here, all these doctors and nurses, they get here and some of them love it right away, but some of them go, that school's not good enough. That park's not nice enough.
Right.
Your beach sucks. Like, there's always something else, right? And you go, man, we're paying you everything under the sun to just stay here. I'm leaving. Nah, I want to be in like the Caribbean, any city in Canada. I don't want to be here even if you pay me more. Not all of them, but a lot of them think that way. So you can bribe a guy to get him here, do his job. But if he doesn't have all the, what do you call the stuff at the cafe, the restaurant there, all the condiments, I think.
The fringe benefits.
Yeah, the fringe benefits. Condiments, what the hell? I'm hungry. Like fringe benefits. So, they don't have it. They'll spend a year or two.
Yeah.
I have to go.
Well, they're doctors. They're well paid wherever they go. And if they're not happy living in a community, then they're going to leave anyway, ultimately, right?
Right.
But
they're like gods, those doctors.
That's what I say. It's big challenges in Canada for healthcare largely because of the geography, just trying to service people in remote communities and get doctors there. Like, what doctor if you're a doctor and you invested all your time getting trained and you can pretty much go wherever you want and write your own ticket, why would you move to a remote northern community when you could be living on a beach sipping a pina colada in the afternoon, right?
Yeah. Exactly. The only doctors that like hanging out here still are the guys that like to go canoeing and out in the bush, go hunting. Those doctors stay. But the rest of them, they're not all into that, right?
Yeah.
I want to go, where's your bowling alley? What's bowling? Don't have one. Yeah, as an example, who wants to go bowling? I won the Hermits record in 1965-ish. I did a perfect bowling game, just 6-pin, 6-pin, right? The little
6-pin
bowling ball. Yeah, 6-pin, I think it was. Not the big bowling ball. I've never done that. Anyway, I won a Hermits record. And I remember Henry VIII I am. Henry VIII I am. Yeah. Anyway, I was getting off subject there. What was your first record, Rick? Just to get off that.
Oh, I don't even remember.
Are you into rock?
My very first record, it was I think it was Snoopy's Christmas. I think my parents bought me a little record player, and it was
Little
Snoopy's.
45?
It was an album. I don't remember all the songs on it now, but it had that Snoopy Red Baron song on it.
Yeah. Oh man, okay. Oh man, geez, I thought you were gonna name it like Led Zeppelin or something. Snoopy.
Snoopy's Christmas.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick. Well, it's good to kind of wind up with a bit of a laugh there, and it's good talking to you as usual.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm I think I'm going to be a sponsor there. I really love your show. I love listening to the stuff you bring up. Always makes me think anyway.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah.
I will look forward to the
You
next
betcha.
call, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Right on. Thanks, Rick.
Okay, see ya.
Good night. Bye. Yeah.
Okay, is this Mike?
No, I think it's Morgan.
Oh, hello, Morgan. How are you?
Hey, yeah, great. I'm a knight, and things have been going really, really well. Except for what's been going on with our government. This is insane. And what's been going on in East Palestine. I'm an occupational health and safety. I got that when I went to college here at St. Clair College, right in Chatham, Kent, when they offered the program in Wallaceburg. I was able to go and attend because it was right down the street from where I lived. That was amazing when that came in. But right before the whole entire world shut down every opportunity. But still, it's amazing to be able to have that opportunity. But I became an occupational health and safety. I know what teratogens are. I know what these chemicals released are going to do and combusted. They're going to destroy the women's ovaries. That's what's going to happen. And you're going to begin to see the babies, because I remember being in Wallaceburg in 1982 and having the discussion about vinyl chloride when it first came out, and sitting across from the babies waiting to see the doctors who had flippers for arms and legs. And then vinyl chloride got released in the water. I believe it was 2000, and I think it was 3 in Wallaceburg, Ontario, if I'm not mistaken, Rick. And we had at the mall the trucks and everything. I hadn't seen anything in my life up until that point, except in movies. I remember I was there to get waters because I had my newborn son, John William, at home. So I mean, of course, I was going there, and I took the wagons and everything to get those bottles of water. I remember thinking to myself, this reminds me of a movie that I saw in church about, like, it's not to get all weird, but the second coming or whatever,
I remember covering that
I
story.
just think it's the
I
truth.
remember that very clearly.
Okay. Yeah. And I remember praying.
Yeah.
And from my faith, I was strengthened, meaning I understood that other people who might not have even the faith that I have, so I needed to keep it together for them. And I did. But I remember just thinking and feeling a darkness. Now, that darkness was obviously fear. And as a man, I thought to myself, I'm doing the right thing. I need to put that fear aside and be ready to tell other people too, hey, we're all going to get what we need. We just need not to push and to shove, because these people on the truck are probably scared that we're going to mob them, because the people were ready to mob them. And I remember thinking, that's how scared everyone is. And the trust goes down, even though the desperation goes up. And that's so nerve-wracking for everyone.
Yes.
And it seems to me like, I want to be so with my time here, the human beings that not just we are, but that the officers, because it's like, I just remember saying, I'm an officer. I'm an occupational health and safety level 1. That means I hold office. So my name, when I'm sitting here telling people, let's go after them with pitchforks and everything, all of a sudden everyone's like, yeah, I got the names right here. Oh, and you too, so grab you. It's like, oh crap, because we all work for the government, because it is our money. It's that there's a divide being done right now, and it seems to me a divide that's trying to come into place, and then if possible, divide classes. And I cannot put my finger on any necessarily individual to accuse. All I can do is try and do what you said, Rick, inform people of the truth, because I believe that's what it comes down to is people's hearts and willingness to stand and say, this is a lie, and I'm not willing to serve or lend, my money from my work to it. And I think it needs to come from a voice that's loud enough and across the country enough and widespread enough that it's listened to, but on a practical level. And what I mean by a practical level is that every time that I get the opportunity, I'm shamed in my mind when I think that it can be forced. When it's an idea, I know I'm talking, not to get in tangents, but with Ben-Hur, when he said, how do we feed an idea? Like an idea like Canada is lost. No, it isn't. And the system that we have in place doesn't need to be thrown out either. It's that there are people are making decisions based upon fear and greed. And because of that, there's a rift between the people that they're serving and the people that are serving the people. And this is where I'm giving my idea. The people serving are trying to take the money or the value out of the system into their tier, as well as the brain power, like the brain drain. And instead of it being drained to the states, I think everyone that can is trying to get it drawn into this now second tier. And it's kind of conglomerating itself and coagulating, if I can use that word. And now I need to stop talking because I said so many points. I need to let them settle now.
Yeah, well, that you said a lot, and I'm following what you're saying. The other thing people I think need
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I think people need to also remember that even when the pandemic hit, everybody blames Trudeau. Everybody blames the Liberal government. Everybody blames Biden, but especially here in Canada. Just because I'm Canadian, you're Canadian. We have to remember that there were a lot of people who, out of fear, were actually demanding of the government at the time that they do what they did to us. Lock us down, impose these mandates. No, you're not getting on this bus with me. You know, you're going to make me sick if you don't get the Kool-Aid, right? A lot of people were saying, lock me down harder, Daddy. Please do it to me and do it to my neighbor. In fact, if you do and they don't comply, I'll report my neighbor to you just to show you what a good person I am. And there were people
Screw
saying,
your freedom, said Schwarzenegger.
That's right. That's right. And we need to remember that. We're never going to win any war or anything else unless we win the minds and the hearts of our neighbors.
Yes. Yes.
And we're never going to get there by fighting with them, punching them in the face, arguing with them by shouting. No, we need to get back to a place where we can talk to each other and get to a place of common sense and reality and deal with truth and deal with it responsibly and find a path forward. And I don't care what system gets torn down, thrown out, what system gets replaces it. It won't matter one iota if we don't get people closer to the center and working together again toward real solutions.
Yes. Yeah, the core. It's like the symptoms. This is where we've gotten treating the symptoms. Or always exactly in the structure in a city as well. It's like, well, let's do this, as opposed to fixing the potholes. Well, let's divert down this road, this road, until the gridlock stops the ability of the body, the system, to carry on, and it has a heart attack, or you know what I'm saying. You can see where the accident is in the system by looking at it as a whole and saying, look, this is where we have, let's stop. We need to fix the core. We need to fix the core of the problem.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, which is the attitudes of the people. They want the government to do, getting back to what you and the last caller were stating, everything for them and just having that attitude. In general, and that doesn't be the entire solution. That's just one idea, but I think responsibility is a word that needs to be looked at. But first, the awakening of the minds and the looking at each other as brothers and sisters. And I don't care if love and peace are ideas that seem old-fashioned. Then I am old-fashioned, and that is what's wrong. What is old-fashioned needs to come back into fashion, and I can't do that with my hate and my fighting. I must wait until smoke clears and then speak clearly and poignantly, and then wait to see what's said so that I'm not just a cymbal, clanging, making a lot of noise that people go, That guy's not interested in hearing what you have to say, just hearing himself talk. I don't want to be that man.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. I appreciate the call.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you very
time.
much.
I'm a knight. I'm calling because you let us, Rick, and you provided this platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to Jen. Hello, how are you tonight?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Am I on here?
You are. Who do we have?
Finn. But I got a delay. I'm having trouble hearing you here.
Okay.
Yeah, Finn. But in fairness to your audience, you guys can. It's Dawkins. I'm the one who's calling. I didn't want to call because you guys are pretty. You're close-minded. I'll put it that way. I want to ask you, Rick. Are you Canadian?
I am.
Okay, because that's not entirely clear to me. Do you watch Joe Rogan at all?
On occasion.
Okay. What puzzles me about Joe Rogan is how he can have all these guys on his show, and the next day it's like he forgot everything. If you watch his show enough, you know what's going on. So I guess the reason why I'm asking you if you watch Joe, I don't even know if you're doing the same thing he is. I'm assuming you know a lot more than you let on, Rick. All right, so I need to know, as a Canadian, do you consider your platform a service to Canadians?
Sure.
Okay. Well, then we can agree on one thing. Because really all I'm trying to do is provide a service to Canadians. They need to know what's going on. I hear a lot of people trying to ask themselves what the hell is going on, but nobody's listening. Anyhow, October 6th, 2017, does that mean anything to you?
Not immediately. Why don't you enlighten me?
All right. That's going to go down in history as the moment that Trump declared war. And nobody knew it. If you can recall, you can look it up. If you got YouTube, it doesn't really matter. October 6th, that's when Trump coined the term calm before the storm. And the reporters asked him, what storm, President? You call it, any of that mean anything to you? Is that coming back?
I vaguely remember him saying that.
All right, well, it's important. And I think your audience needs to know this. Okay? It's a service to Canadians I'm providing here. Stop attacking me for... I have anxiety issues. Please be patient with me. Yeah, we have a lot of lies here we need to wake up to, okay, guys? And I'm not saying this because this is my plan. It's not what I want. There's a big part of the plan I don't like. But all of us has a lot of digging to do if they want to know what the hell is going on. Okay, you can disagree with me if you want. That's fine. I don't care. Just don't shut me up. People need to wake up to what's going on. So October 6th, 2017, Trump declared war. It was the calm before the storm. We have to start looking for patterns. The storm is a pattern. The storm's not going away, is it? And the press still don't know exactly what the calm before the storm was. That night, he posed. He had a bunch of, I think they were generals, military for sure, they're all in uniform. There was 9 on one side, 11 on the other. Do you think the photographer screwed up and just didn't keep any symmetry in the photo? Trump promised us. He was, by the end of his term, he was going to let everybody know who was behind 9/11, but he didn't do that, did he? We don't know yet. It's because Trump's not gone. He's still in charge. There's something what they call continuity of government. COG, they call that for short. The military like acronyms. So just look up COG, continuity of government. Before Trump left, he basically switched everything over to himself in the military. He kept the football. This Joe Biden you're looking at is not a real Joe Biden.
Okay,
It's an actor.
No.
Take the time, Rick. Look, if you can't look, you're not providing a service to Canadians. They need to know this.
I think they need to know that you're down a really severe rabbit hole.
Rick, I've got facts. You got to go down the hole.
I'll tell you what, sir.
Wait.
I'll tell you what. You send me whatever information you have to back up your claims.
Rick,
I will
sending
look
you
at
guys
it up.
shit. You guys reject it all the time. You guys reject everything I try to send you. That's not being open-minded.
What do you mean I reject
You
everything
guys
you're
just
trying to
attack
send
me.
me? I didn't just.
I'm telling you, your whole channel, you've got a team behind you to shut me down.
No, I don't. No,
That's not fair. Well, then you got a team behind you of very ignorant people. You need to look at the facts, Rick. All right.
I
Huge is
absolutely
real.
try
The
to deal
posts
in
are all
facts,
there, and
and
it's
that's
not.
why if you send me the information, I will look at it. I have people sending me a lot of stuff every day, and I try to look at everything that I read as much as I possibly can. I'm an information overload, but Dakin, I'm telling you, man, I appreciate what you're trying to say, but I'm telling you,
My fight's not with you, Rick.
you're the one being misled. Trump is not in charge.
There's a lot of things, Rick.
Joe
Why
Biden,
would he continue rallying after you?
Sorry, go
Joe Biden is not Joe Biden. This is all about natural law. Look up what Joe Biden had to say with natural law. Joe Biden himself had warned us it was coming.
Where are you getting this information from, my friend?
Hi, Rick. I'll let you know. I've been off work for 4 years. Okay, I had a disability. I went into depression, and through that depression, I basically tried to figure out how to make sense out of life.
Wow.
And all this stuff, it's all coincidental. Okay, it's almost like it was given to me. I'm not the one who's doing this. I'm just trying to let you know what's going on.
I understand.
And there's lots going on. Nothing makes sense right now because that's the way they want it. They're doing it on purpose to wake us up. Now, if we don't want to wake up, we just keep having fun doing this, just chasing our tail around and around and around we go. But we need to decide when we want to wake up. That's up to us.
So you're buying into you're obviously, maybe I'm wrong, but am I correct in saying that you are a natural law / common law advocate, believer?
Rick, it's done. It's done. Look at all the real estate that's coming up for sale. The corporation is done. Call the Governor General's office. It's empty. There's no one home. We can't. There's nothing we can do to change it. It's already been done. I'm just trying to wake you up to it. The Corporation of Canada is bankrupt. It failed. Now we need to look at how do we pick up the pieces. Now, the longer we keep pretending that Justin Trudeau is still in power, the longer this is going to drag out.
Let me enlighten you. And this is a very
all right. Go for it.
Just from the very I don't really want to get into all this common law stuff. But they start from.
I'm letting you know your common law shit. That's a psyop. Let your audience know the common law is a psyop. None of that is real. That is a distraction to keep you away from looking at natural law. And you know what? They've been very successful at it. Now, do you really want to free up your countrymen, Rick, or not? Like, I don't know what your motives are.
Yeah,
like, are you being real or not? You shouldn't. You got to go in the rabbit hole, not out, Rick.
I've been down the rabbit holes, my friends, and I've been spending a lot of time, especially over the past year, examining, researching, learning all about the way that even you think. And you are you're being seriously led astray. And it starts right from the very beginning with what you just said about Canada being a corporation. It starts right there.
Well, it's gone now. We don't have to worry. But no, we're a kingdom now. Okay? The Law of War Manual was ratified back in 2015. Nobody knows anything about this, but why was it done? Why did we have the bill, the S-201 or whatever it was called? So you didn't have to tell people your vaccine information. That was supposed to be kept a secret. That was passed in 2017 in Canada. Why would they set that up? It's a big setup, Rick.
Whoa.
It's a setup, and I'm trying to let everybody know in advance.
Well, I appreciate the warning.
We got. You know what? I love you, Canada. I love you, Canada. And open your mind, open your hearts. I love you all.
I love you
Rick,
too,
I
man.
wish you could help us out.
Dakin, I am trying to help you out, Dakin. What they've done is they've infected your mind with information that is so far off
this way.
that you're way off base, man. You're not even in the zone.
You're preventing us from looking down the right rabbit hole, Rick.
No, I'm not.
I'm trying to tell everybody where to look. Look, it's only going to go one or two ways. Either you're going to be surprised as hell, or you're going to be ready for it.
I know where you've been. I've looked at some of this stuff, and I'm open to looking at whatever you want to send me.
You don't know where I've been, Rick.
I will look at it all. You send it to me, and you convince me, and I'll lay it all. We'll lay it all out here if you give me convincing arguments to prove what.
And that's why I think you're controlled opposition, Rick. You should know this. This is obvious, for Christ's sakes. It's obvious. You're just pulling a Joe Rogan. You know the shit, you pretend you don't. Yeah, you're doing the same role. It's controlled opposition. Joe Rogan knows a lot more than what he lets on. Why is he hiding it from us? He's fucking buddies with Alex Jones and what's his other buddy there?
Okay, so let's just pull back for a moment. You just made an accusation.
With Fox, Tucker.
I'm controlled opposition.
And Joe Rogan.
You just
I'm telling you, these guys hang out in the parking lot together.
You're accusing other people. Like, where do you get that I'm controlled opposition? And who's
because I know you know
controlling
more, Rick. There is no way you're this ignorant. There's no way you could be this ignorant. You know a lot more than you're letting on. And that's why I wonder if you're doing a service for Canadians or if you're just looking out for yourself. Who do you work for, really? I don't work. I've been off road for 4 years. I'm doing this for my family. I'm working for Canadians. I see that we can lose it, and I tried to do something about it. And you guys are stopping me. What the hell? I'm fighting with my own friends.
How am I stopping you from doing anything?
You need to let the Canadians know what happened. The longer you wait, the harder this is going to hit them. The military will move in, and people are going to freak out. You're not going to stop the military moving in. That's an inevitability. It's already been set up. You can't do anything about it. But what you can do is help Canadians by letting them know what's coming. And stay out of the way.
You know what's going to cause the military to move in is people who are being led astray, getting violent. That's what will bring the military.
That's why we're here, Rick. You're preventing us from stopping people from getting hurt.
No, my friend, I've been working vigorously and relentlessly to prevent exactly that.
I think you're full of shit. I think you're full of shit. You're distracting people.
Okay, well,
you haven't done your homework.
You know what? I think
you're ignorant. You're working against us.
Dakin, I think that you have mental health issues because you've been down a rabbit hole and you've been depressed and you're vulnerable to these.
And you're going to hold that all against me.
No,
Good job.
I'm good just being real with you. And I don't think
I'm trying to let you know about facts. Why wouldn't Canadians want to know what was redacted?
I've already told you, my friend.
Come on. We know the government lies to us. Why wouldn't we want to know what they're lying about?
You send me whatever you want. My email address is out there. Go to the website, send me the information.
I'm wore out. I've been doing this for over a year. I've done this for over a year. I'm wore out. Anyways, Canada, I love you. I'm telling you, there's some weird shit coming. Just be open and accepting of it.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a bad
I
thing.
think you're nuts. So have a nice day. How about that? Dakin is freaking nuts because he's allowed people to drive him crazy with a bunch of crap. Donald Trump is not in charge. If you believe that, you need a reality check. And I know that many of you out there watching believe that. Who do we have on the line next? Go ahead.
Hey, Rick, are you there?
I'm here, sir.
This is Rob.
Hey, Rob.
I see you're still in that boxing ring I put you in the other night. Well, you know, I'm just going to try to understand. I listen to you. I listen to a lot of people and their comments and directions and conversations and stuff. And I figure I might just, if I throw you a good scoop of ice cream, if you're up for it, you know, maybe I heard you talk about.
Can you make it a double scoop, please? Because I'm really in need after that last call of a little something to satisfy my my need for something a little sweeter.
Your bon appetit. I'll tell you, you know, this Palestine thing, we had conversations about that. I'm passionate about what I said that night on the call in. But here's the thing. I'm just going to give you some ice cream words. I'm not going to try to explain the words. And I know that you're a good reporter. I know you're true in what you say and you're true in what you report. So I know you always got a pencil and a pen. So I'll give you a few words.
Okay.
And people have a tendency to forget, but some people just kind of, it's their job, you know. So I'll give you one word. It's going to be called Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give you another word. It's going to be radiation.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an odd word. It's going to be K9, as in dog. And then I'm going to give you another word, as in evolution. Then I'm going to give you another word. It's called laboratory. You know, that's a real interesting combination of words and research. And it stems up to what's going on in Ukraine right now, I believe. But I wish everybody the best in what they do. And I'm going to keep it short tonight, maybe give somebody else a chance. But I think that there's an angel inside Ohio, and she's the soup mama. She's one of these people in this world that's got the audacity to raise up her hand and say, hey, I need help on this. And Rick does too. I wish I had millions of dollars, Rick. You would be so impressed. You know, I think Rick needs some support. You know, I support you in every way that I can, secretly, of course. But I think it's people power. I think people can solve this problem. I like my world. I like Canada. I like trains, planes, and automobiles just as anybody else does. I just think that we can solve this with people problem. And I'm going to say goodnight to you, Rick. But check out those words. Use them in combination. And when the evolution, that's a scary word to combine with all of those, but it's indeed true. So I wish you a good evening, and I hope nobody calls back in yelling at you.
You're controlled opposition. You're stopping me from saving the world. It's all your fault. You've got a whole team stopping me.
I get it. You know, you put yourself out there. You know, you're in the boxing ring. You know, sit down and have a couple scoops of ice cream.
Yeah.
And take a break, unplug. You know. But I appreciate you, man. I really do.
Thank you.
And we got you back.
Thanks.
Y'all have a good evening.
You too. And Dakin, you know what, man? Like I don't dislike you. I'm cool with you. It's just you're wrong. It's just you are way out to lunch because you've been letting people lead you around by the nose, Dakin. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's all crazy talk.
Kool-Aid comes in different flavors, but there's such a thing as soldiers. I get it. Without good commanders, soldiers, they go into panic mode. You know, they start shooting at anything that jumps up out there, but true commanders tell them what the problem is. So, you know, it's always keep your ass down and your heads up. That's the way I see it. So, you have a huge space inside my mind, and anything I can do to help, and information or anything to help free some minds and some space there and some open way of thinking. I think people are going to be the people that's going to have to solve it. You know, it's going to be people power. So just go to your corner, sit down, wash your mouth out, and get back in there. And I'll talk to you later, Rick.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night. Okay. Who do we have next here? You want to talk about East Palestine? You go ahead. I've got you.
You got me?
I got you. Is this Heather?
No, it's Sherry.
Sherry. Well, hello, Sherry. I'll settle for Sherry any day.
Yeah. Okay, I'm a color designer in the automotive world. So I understand what East Palestine's going through because of smells of the different polymers.
Okay. So you're a
They can be. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. So you design, you come up with colors for automotive paints. Is that what you
No, the automotive interior of all the polymers that are in the car.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So we have vinyl chloride, ABS, so many materials that they're breathing. I don't understand what they're feeling because I have to deal with that every day at my job.
Gotcha. Right.
And they're not saying anything